Great. So the first session, Chris Brown and Erika Grinius from Walgreens are going to talk about the content marketing strategy behind the Vitamin Angel program. Has anyone heard of it? It's a pretty big program. It's amazing. They are striving to provide over 100 million children, both in the US and around the world, life-saving vitamins. And Chris and Erika are going to share how they produce business results and elevate the brand and the category awareness for Walgreens by turning insights and actions into content marketing and storytelling. Erika is the digital marketing manager for health and wellness. She led the digital marketing strategy and execution for health and wellness categories at Walgreens, including vitamins, OTC, and diabetes care. And Chris leads marketing strategy, integrated planning, and execution of OTC and H&W, cough and cold allergy categories. They both work with obviously really big budgets and do a lot of interesting things. In 2015, Chris was given the GSK Consumer Health Award for Best Omnichannel Launch Activation. So I would like to welcome them up to a stage. Let's give them all a warm welcome.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Marian, it's always tough going first, I suppose, but hopefully we break the ice a little bit. I think we have to stay within this little bit of space, so I'll try to pan a little bit and make sure we have the camera recorded and just, again, try to keep this engaged. There's a lot of content to get through, so hopefully we get through in a fairly efficient manner, but I definitely, if you have a question, something catches your interest, raise your hand. We'll try to catch you. It's a little dark in the room. Flag us if we need to, anything you do to get our attention. We'll try to answer questions, and we'll leave some time at the end as well. Is there a clicker? Awesome. So we were introduced. Thank you, Chris Brown, again, Health and Wellness Marketing Manager at Walgreens, lead our Health and Wellness division, primarily OTCs, wellness, diet, nutrition, vitamins, and things like that. And Erika, again.
Yeah, Erika Grinius. I support Chris's programs on the digital side, as well as support some of our digital health innovation features on the site.
Great. So again, we're here to talk about the Vitamin Angels program. It's not necessarily pharma related, but it is healthcare in the sense that it is OTC focused. We have a pharmacy heritage, and we do a lot of bridge connections with our pharma programs and pharmacy partners as well. But really, this is a story about vitamin category, how we were kind of in the shallows for a while, and we needed to do something differentiated to pull ourselves up out of that and create a world-class marketing platform that actually drove business results, and excited to tell the story about it. So again, we'll talk about the purpose behind the program a little bit, the marketing approach. Erika will share in depth the content strategy, and then we'll talk about some results and learnings. So framing out the purpose, I mentioned before, it was probably back in about 2012, 2013-ish, when we recognized that our sales for vitamin category started to go very red line and plummet. Really the business problems are there's no differentiation when you're shopping vitamins. You either go to Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, it's the same proposition, it's the same sale, no matter where you go each week. So there's really no differentiation in the consumer's eyes. I'm just gonna go where it's most convenient for me. And it's also a heavily commodity category. So it's 90% promo penetrated, actually above that now, which means that vitamin category is always on sale. Can't get rid of it. It was something that happened way back in the day. And you don't like to rip out equity in healthcare marketing, or healthcare in general, but this category is very heavily promoted. So how do we kind of differentiate from that? We tried to, and this is what led to Vitamin Angels program, is we tried to go away from BOGO. We tried to go away from promotion. What happened was the customer stopped shopping us because we were just charging regular price for vitamins when I can go to any other competitor and get something in a 100 count and also get that second 100 count for free. So obviously not a great proposition for us. We had to do something really quickly to change that around. So I guess some of the other challenges, again, like I mentioned before, our buyer penetration was down because we changed strategies to shift out of promotion penetration and into kind of just a more everyday price. And then our trips and sales started to lag. Vitamins is actually a category leader for us in the company, which means if that business does not profit, then our company does not profit on the front end. So our enterprise trips were down as a net result too, as well as enterprise sales. So there was something that was a big red flag to the company we needed to change. And then there's also some customer challenges with vitamins. I know vitamins is a heavily shopped category in general, but there's also some efficacy issues, whether people think vitamins are actually doing anything for you. We see studies in the news it kind of feels like it's an annual cycle of multivitamins aren't good for you. This doesn't do this. It's kind of just more of a luxury than a need to have. And there's also just an education gap on what it is that it can't do. So what we needed to do was, one, get people back in the doors, and then also there was this gap of saying vitamins actually do matter. So how do you find and build a program and tell people that vitamins actually do benefit you from a health perspective? Maybe we don't recognize as much as we do here, but around the globe it definitely does, because we have the benefit of having fortified foods and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So again, in any other objective, what you're trying to do at a campaign is obviously grow your category sales profit and ultimately share. So that was obviously the primary objective that we set out to do. And we did some research, and going from promo to non-promo, and that not working, we just opened up the market and said, okay, what would the customer do to come back to Walgreens to shop this category? We did a ton of research, qualitative, quantitative, and it led us to a stat. And I guess this is probably nothing that's new news now, because you're starting to see it a lot in the industry, is 91% of Americans told us that they're willing to switch brands if they're associated with a good cause. That's a huge telling number. So what that said was, okay, maybe we need to go down the cause marketing route. Walgreens doesn't traditionally do those types of things, but if the customer's saying they'll come back to us in order to shop us because we've then latched onto a cause and we're actually doing something that's good, maybe that's something that will re-jump this category in trips and sales for us. So what we had to do, and what we did do, was kind of go out and identify a partner. Vitamins, obviously the category. Are there any cause partners or any champions in this field that are related definitely to vitamins? And there happened to be a partner that aligns themselves really well with the category called Vitamin Angels. So a little bit about them. They actually provide, they focus on mothers and malnourished children around the globe. They're actually operating in about 60 countries now. This is a little bit older stat, it says 50. And they have a network where they are using about 800, roughly, probably 850 now, GMO partners is what they call them. And they go out and they identify local organizations and communities that are hard to reach and impoverished, because they don't have obviously the footprint to do it themselves. And they just partner with those folks and provide them with vitamins so that they can then go out into the communities, or they work with local government and health systems, provide them vitamins, and they go into the communities and give people the vitamins that they need. Another thing that we also had to consider too was, okay, this obviously partner looked great. They're the vitamin category. They're doing a very good thing. We needed to make sure that they were credible as well. Our leadership team now at Walgreens is all about partnership. So they really pushed us to make sure that, one, the partner was vetted. Two, if we can't do it ourselves, let's find a partner that can. And this organization is what they're called Charity Navigator 10 times consecutively. Again, that's an old stat that says 9. What that means is all of their proceeds pretty much they take in are going to helping their cause. So they only operate, on 5% in terms of like paying for folks' salaries or doing anything from a marketing and administrative perspective. So to give you a little bit of perspective on that, I believe it's 10% of all nonprofits actually follow this model. So it's a telling stat that they're really invested in their cause. So after identifying them, we established the partnership. So we set out to say that, one, obviously we're trying to jumpstart sales, but additionally to our leadership team just being all about partnership, we're lucky to work for a company that does really believe in cause marketing. This is one of the first programs that established that. Some of the other campaigns that we run that we won't talk about today are Get a Shot, Red Nose Day, and things like that, but they're really about helping the community, and that our CEO is partners with the UNF Foundation CEO, and they do a lot of good things together, so they really got behind this mission. So what we wanted to do is kind of, one, be lofty in our aspiration of, let's just try to combat malnutrition around the world. Let's throw out just this arbitrary number, 100 million. Sounds probably unattainable, unfeasible, and just made up, but we said, let's do it, because vitamins are an easy thing to distribute from manufacturers, so let's try to hit this goal, and let's get the customers and our employees around this message and see if we can actually happen to hit this 100 million children number. So in 2013, we started working with them. 2014, we established the goal of trying to reach 100 million children. And what we do is actually, when you come in and buy vitamins at Walgreens, 1% of that sale is donated to the Vitamin Angels organization. To kind of put that into a little bit of perspective, every dollar equals 4 children, essentially. And to put that into a little bit more perspective, 100 million children is individual kids. It's not just a one-time dose. It's you're being with them We actually start to administer at the ages of 6 months, and it goes through 5 years old. So you're actually 100 million children, you're with them from the age of 6 months to 5 years old. So it actually is a pretty profound impact versus like a one and done easy thing. So just to kind of summarize what that is before we actually get into the marketing strategy component of it is, based on some of the insights, really pivoting off of that 91%, we recognize that malnutrition is the #1 cause of preventable blindness. Preventable deaths. Vitamins actually combat against that, especially in some of these underdeveloped countries. So that was the stat we leveraged. And then 82% of folks, additionally into that 91, said that they would actually recommend a brand. So one said they'd shop you if you would associate with a good cause and it's leading to a good thing. And they'd actually start to recommend you too. So how do you actually kickstart that from creating champions of customers that are in your doors and then getting other people back into the doors as well? So again, the action that we took after partnering was doing 1% of vitamin sales donated off of each purchase. And actually from a results perspective, to cue it up a little bit, I think Hope said that we were reaching our 100 million children goal or striving to do that just, I believe it was last week. We actually hit that number. So 2 years ahead of, or excuse me, a year and a half ahead of goal, or a year and a couple of months ahead of goal, which we weren't expecting to do. What we saw, and we'll see this a little bit in the slides prior, is that once we introduced this program to the marketplace, it really jumped off, and our sales grew at rates where we couldn't even keep stocking the shelves. So it was actually a really strong program when we started getting folks back into the category. So we were very excited to hit that goal, and we were making announcements pretty soon about partnering and taking this overseas and potentially setting that goal a lot higher. 100 million children was only US sales. So Walgreens, larger as WBA, what we're looking to do is take that partnership a little bit further. Just with US sales, 100 million children, what do we think we can attain if we bring on our Boots partners in the UK and potentially something else coming down the pipeline in a couple months I can't talk about. It's a little bit of both ways. So monetary donation is definitely the main premise, but we do supplement them. So some of our manufacturing partners and some of our over in Boots Alliance is a procurer for us. So we actually will provide them with vitamins as well. So it's a little bit of a dual working model. So from a marketing approach perspective, just some objectives that we flat out that we need to do. Again, how do we drive awareness back to the category at Walgreens? How to increase our market share that plummeted so far when we took ourselves out of the promo business, and how we convert more customers, particularly obviously those shopping the VMS category, but just Walgreens in general, because I said before, when the vitamin category took a hit, our enterprise took a hit. So we just need to get people back in and engaged with the brand, not only feeling good about the category, but just feeling good about Walgreens in general. And how do we kind of boost team member morale as well? So our teams at the local levels love to partner with different cause organizations. Feedback that we always get from our field team members is that, why can't we do something on a national scale? Why is there something for us to participate that's more global in nature, and we'd really get behind this? And if they get behind it, they're obviously going to talk to the customers about the program a lot. So how do we engage them as well? From a target audience perspective, again, these are kind of some slides we still pan through, but at Walgreens, our customers older, obviously a pharmacy heritage, and 55 plus is just kind of the overall Walgreens mean for shoppers, especially in the pharmacy area. There's a lot of affinity between the pharmacy patients and the vitamin category. So they make up the bulk of our vitamin sales, roughly 75%. But we obviously can't ignore the rest of the marketplace, and we need to obviously grow as a company younger. So this high potential area that we've actually identified over the last 3 years too, and that it's a generation that is very into kind of cause-minded marketing, or what is your company doing for us and for the world. We start to see some uptick with them as well. So these are folks who haven't traditionally shopped the vitamin category, don't feel the need to, but they will if there's a certain solution that is appeasing to them. It's more kind of a quick fix, like energy supplements and beauty vitamins and things like that. So a few strategies. Again, we wanted to leverage a content-based platform pivoted off of one key insight to derivative from the Vitamin Angels partnership to lead with that year-round and really make this the forefront versus kind of just doing the traditional competitor, here's an ad, here's a sale, come shop us for the week. How do we create loyalty and get them engaged and make them or help them shop us more consistently year round? Let's go out with this message and have that lead versus leading with just price. How do we communicate the program? Obviously, you need to generate reach and frequency to make folks aware. And then how do you engage people on an individual one-on-one level through digital and social channels? Create conversations, create engagement, and help people actually realize that this 100 million children goal actually is something that you can impact yourself on a one-to-one level. And then also, how do we, again, bring those team members back into the fold through some two-way communication? We actually didn't have a chance to get the team member engagement stuff into this presentation. It would have ran a little bit too long, but hopefully we can share some stuff out with Hope and she could distribute to the group, because I know that folks are always looking to say, how do we get not only corporate or support office folks involved, how do you get your field folks involved if that's the case for you, or sales teams? We have a really best-in-class way of doing that, where we had 95% participation rate across both corporate and stores. And you think about an enterprise that has 40,000 plus employees, it's a huge number. Wish we could have shared, but hopefully Hope can distribute it after today. Any questions? Let me pause for a second. Strategies, objectives, before I kind of get into our media approach and then ultimately into the content component of it. Okay. So from media perspective, we look at things in kind of two different ways at Walgreens. How do you make somebody aware, and then how do you make somebody care? Very generalized buckets, but when we dimensionalize that, what it means is essentially, how do you leverage your broadcast and higher reach channels in the most efficient way? How do you think of digital as a high reach channel in the most efficient way? And how do you then start to connect and personalize at a one-to-one level once you've kind of made them aware and understanding of the program and the cause? And you just do those obviously through their digital social channels as well, so direct activations, whether it's email or direct mailers. We'll talk a little bit about those approaches. So from a messaging standpoint, again, I mentioned this 100 million lofty goal number that seems fairly unattainable and seems kind of arbitrary to a customer. If I told you we could help 100 million children get 1,000,001 questions, and that's what we saw in focus groups of how, why, what is it doing, where is the money going? 100 million children doesn't even sound like a real number. Is there that many people in the world, in the country? Like, there's all types of questions that come up. So how do you dimensionalize that? How do you make a simplified message, and then ultimately after the simplified message, talk to her at a one-to-one level to say your purchase is making a difference? We look through this lens of kind of get vitamins here, change lives everywhere, kind of as the lead hero, as our foreframe to everything. And then actually when we get down to some of our other communication channels, we talk about how you actually make a difference. When you choose Walgreens, you choose to make a difference. When you make a purchase of a single bottle, you're actually helping a child. And how do we bring real stories and real people to the fold to make them understand that your purchase is actually helping this individual child? So the one idea, you can help provide life-changing vitamins to children in need in the US and around the world with every vitamin purchased at Walgreens. That was kind of the fold that I just talked about in the last slide, or excuse me, the lens that I talked about in the last slide. And then we'll get into a little bit more down the funnel of how you see how we start to dimensionalize this and make it a little bit more real. So we took the approach of see the change. And before I jump into the next couple of slides, I'll step back and kind of remind you it's 100 million children. How do you bring it down to one-to-one connection? Do you make people aware of the program because they told us they'd switch? And then how do you also get people to understand that vitamins are an efficacious product? We might not see it because all of our foods are fortified and it's essentially a luxury here, but it is a necessity somewhere else. So one, it is benefiting you in ways that you don't know, but it's also really benefiting these kids. So if you're gonna buy vitamins, might as well buy them to help somebody who truly does need them. So see the change. We had to narrow in deep. We didn't focus on all vitamins. We kind of wanted to focus on a program the Vitamin Angels core program of administering vitamin A around the world, and they also do multivitamins and prenatals and things like that. What we honed on in the program last year was this vitamin A. So we learned that vitamin A deficiency will lead to blindness, and about 500,000 children around the world do go blind, and unfortunately they die every year because of this blindness. Or after losing sight after 12 months. So Vitamin Angels actually goes into communities where this program, or excuse me, this problem, if you will, is very prevalent. You'll see in the content strategy a little bit later where we derived all of our content from last year's program, village that Erika and I got to visit, where this was a persistent problem, and got some really unique and great footage that drove the content and actually boosted our program greatly. So how do we take this whole scope umbrella that we've been looking through, dimensionalize it to focus on one specific kind of vitamin or aspect, tell this story in a unique way, and then kind of pivot your hero spot and the rest of the campaign off of it. So again, we went with this focus on blindness and how children around the world could potentially be affected, but how your purchase can make a difference. And this was kind of our banner TV ad that we ran for about 6 weeks. And all the content kind of started to derive from this, around this notion of kind of blindness and see the change. So we'll play this commercial video real quick.
When you get your vitamins at Walgreens, you help give life-changing vitamins to kids across the globe. Get vitamins here, change lives everywhere. Walgreens, the corner of happy and healthy.
So that spot really was kind of taken off of the insight, again, that I told you before, of blindness and how you can dimensionalize and make sure that people's purchase are making a difference. Very clear, obviously the game they're playing peekaboo site, so we were very literal with it to help folks interpret that that was what we were trying to get across. That's why I actually performed really well. In the past 4 years of ads, is the the second best performing spot that we've had at Walgreens. In terms of reach, it hit 95% of the market. They've seen it at least 8 or 9 times. All the branding breakthrough and branded breakthrough metrics drove really well. Persuasion, shopping intent, all lifted. And so this was kind of really the kickoff to jump lifting that vitamin category, which actually helped us catapult to get into that 100 million children number. So Erika's going to talk a little bit about the content platform, but I'll set the stage a little bit, because this is where taking that kind of key insight of blindness and then making sure it reaches across all of our digital, social, mobile channels and activations was this lens of from see the change, we went down to see what they see. And what we wanted to do, again, was show folks that life-changing vitamins, watch you from the vitamin angel's perspective, and some of these beneficiaries that we actually work with in the field. How do we take their stories, follow them around with cameras, literally give them cameras and kind of see the world through their eyes, because they've been had the benefit of getting vitamins through this program. We went to a few different villages in Uganda, I'll talk about in the next slide, gave them cameras, found roughly 5-6 children, Erika will talk about a little bit later, can't recall at the top of my head, and just followed kind of a day in the life or a couple of days in the life, and really got some really great footage and content out of that based on being able to see kind of through the lens of their eyes. This is just one of the villages of many that we visited in Uganda, where vitamin A deficiency is prevalent. And what we did, again, was attended different villages, went to different vitamin distributions, and just really followed children around for a couple of weeks, a couple of days at a time, depending on the village and child. And Erika will jump in a little bit more to that. So before we pass on to content, were there any questions before I hand it off? Great.
Thanks. So when I would tell my friends that I was going to Uganda, they all assumed that it was because my husband's an anthropologist and that it was his trip that he was going on. And I was like, nope, it's actually Walgreens. And it was kind of shocking to people. I still get a reaction from people saying, oh, what, are you like opening stores in Africa now?
Maybe with boots.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to get a little bit probably more tactical than Chris, in that because we had all this content, we need to figure out how it was going to be distributed, in what formats, at what point in time, where it's going to be housed. So we needed to make sure that we were hitting multiple touch points, that we were aligning to the media plan, that we were going to make sure we had a rollout strategy for our key post point, and like what was going to be that user experience to get people from an ad to engaging with the content in more depth. So we wanted to make sure that we engaged her where she is. Our customer isn't just on Facebook. She's on lots of platforms, lots of media sites. So we are hitting lots of them. We decided to focus mostly on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr for our media plan. And then in terms of video distribution, we leveraged a number of partners from like specific types of media sites that were more focused on women's lifestyle as well as cause. And then obviously like YouTube and some networks. So our rollout plan too was also, March was our key pulse point, and we wanted to make sure that we kind of refreshed the content throughout the whole month. So we decided to launch one child's story every week over a period of 5 weeks. So we wanted to kind of show you some of the output that we had, just to kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse. So we'll roll the first videos, like our full story overview of the See the Change campaign.
Uganda is a beautiful country. If kids cannot see, they miss out on everything that makes it great. The mountains, the streams, the dancing, and its people.
Every part of your body requires vitamin A. If a child doesn't get that, they will not develop proper eyesight. They will not be able to see. That's how important vitamin A is.
We've been working with Vitamin Angels for 3 years to bring vitamin A supplements to these communities with help from partners like Walgreens.
So we also had a lot of other formats that we created from the footage that we got in Uganda. So we had, that was kind of like our main overview video, and then we had 5 shorter videos that showcased one child and his or her family. I won't go into that all that right now, but we also had then cut downs of different content that we had created as well, so that we could, because a lot of times on Facebook, people are only engaging for about 7 to 10 seconds anyway. So I'll show next a 5-second loop that we had, if you want to run that. All right, you can stop that one, and then we'll show the, and then there's a GIF that we'll show as well. Little boy was Mushabalo, and he was probably the shyest of the kids that we filmed, and we weren't quite sure how well his, the content would really do, because he didn't engage in some of the ways the other kids do, and this one ended up being our most engaged with social post. All right, that's good. Thanks. So one of the other things we experimented with on this trip was virtual reality. So the partner that we had chosen to do our production was Riot, and one of the reasons we picked them was not only for their kind of documentary style approach to their video shoots, but also they were skilled in virtual reality, and they brought their virtual reality camera along on the trip, and we weren't entirely sure how we were going to use it. So in this photo on the right, they set it up sort of in the middle of a circle that one of the sort of elders in this village had set up with a lot of his grandchildren and the neighbor kids, and he told stories, and kids would dance too, and talk and laugh, and we ended up not having, we weren't quite sure if we were going to put virtual reality headsets in some stores and try and get people to immerse themselves into the village life there. That ended up just being a little bit too complicated and costly to scale. So we decided to put them into 360 videos, which are basically a new format that you can sort of interact with the video, either on desktop with your cursor, or if it's on your cell phone, basically you can kind of tilt the phone, you can kind of explore the surrounding of the environment. So I'm not going to show that right now, but if you look up, if you're on YouTube and you look up Walgreens 360 videos, you can find some of them there. So this gets a little bit more like tactical, but we kind of had a lot of debate about where do we put all the content now that we have it. Can we put it on our website? Should we put it on YouTube? Should we put it on Tumblr? And we ended up deciding to house our content on our Tumblr blog. And our team came up with a great solution to kind of do a takeover of the blog, because right now we have a lot of different businesses that use the blog within Walgreens, and it runs like a feed, so you get all these different posts that are coming up that may not be relevant to Vitamin Angel. So we wanted to make sure that someone was coming from an ad to the landing page, that they would be able to engage with the content further there, engage with each child's story. So we kind of, with a few minor coding changes, we were able to kind of transform the blog into a little bit more of a microsite that you could then navigate through each child's stories, and you could also link to a particular child's stories. It also allowed that flexibility of multiple formats, so not just video, not just images, but you could kind of have them all next to each other without it being a strange user experience. We also did leverage our Walgreens.com site as well, though, for a lot of our email and our site promotions. We want to keep them on the site, so we redesigned our page. The first one on the left was the prior year's experience, and then we wanted to kind of try to bring forth that one-to-one experience a little bit more clearly on the page as well. So we decided to first immerse everybody in the video immediately if they came to the page. We kept our counter there. You can see that tracks how many children we've helped in the world, which is now over 100 million, as Chris has mentioned. And then we kind of created this interactive map that not only shows the breadth of countries that Vitamin Angels impacts now, but also you can click on a plus mark and you would see then an individual child's story pop up that you can interact with. We also had a widget that we brought into the page to pull in some of the social content as well. And we did see increased success with the page in terms of decreased bounce rates, increased clicks on the page, and then the revenue attribution, while kind of a fuzzy metric for the page, has actually doubled since the prior year. We hope that means that we're kind of inspiring people to take that next step and purchase vitamins from Walgreens. All right, now I'm going to hand it back to Chris to talk about how we did. Yeah.
So if I'm on Walgreens.com and I search for vitamins, does the promotional about Angels immediately come up so that if I'm searching, it partners with those products that I'm searching for, particularly with vitamins, to encourage your brand and buy your brand?
Yeah, so on every product page, so if you're just on a vitamin product page, you'll see a little call out that says that your purchase will help kids around the world. We also do a lot of integration within the category pages as well as on the home page that you can to try and make that connection. As you can see, a lot of people in the room just still didn't know about Vitamin Angels, so we're struggling with awareness still. We really need to keep pushing the needle there. One of the other things that we started doing this past year was when people purchase vitamins in store or online, they'll be triggered an email just thanking them for their purchase and explaining to them about the program. So
Does it also on contributing towards in the
The counter does, that's like actual meter, but you particularly,
Not at the individual level. I could tee up a little something we're doing for FY17 or fiscal year 17, excuse me, where on a regular cadence, and it actually will go out in November as part of this thank you initiative that we're doing, is all of our top vitamin customers, if you will, so top 10%, roughly 100,000 folks or whatever, we're mailing them and emailing them their contribution, their direct contribution to the program over time. We plan to do that kind of on a regular cadence with the direct marketing team. So November, if you're a big enough shopper, you're going to see how many people you've helped. But we're going to plan on doing that on a regular cadence.
It's just encouraging the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
That as a consumer, if I'm participating, I'd love to know how much I'm participating.
Yeah.
And keep driving me back.
which was kind of, which is kind of the whole point, right? Like with Get a Shot, Give a Shot, there's that immediate, like, okay, I know that with my shot that I got, I'm helping somebody else get one shot. Since we don't have that quite one-to-one connection in the way the program is set up, it's harder to make that connection.
Are you also in-store purchasing, encouraging your people to sign up to be part of the program? Like if they don't have their Walgreens card or something like that, are you encouraging them to stay connected with the Angels program by giving an email address at checkout?
Currently not, but what we're doing in this next year, so all this stuff is, you're asking great questions because this is all stuff that's been thought through and we're trying to say, how do we just take it that much further? How does everybody that makes a purchase at Walgreens actually know that they're making this difference? So there'll be things at the counter that are now going to be triggered in activation. Erika mentioned the email program. If we have your email address after you make a purchase, within a couple of days, you'll get a note. So things like that, like right at point of sale, we're trying to encourage, and if not, steer them in that direction.
Awesome. Can you talk about how you landed on the decision to utilize Tumblr as the main landing page?
Yeah, I mean it was a little bit complicated because Tumblr, on the one hand, our vitamin customer is like 55 plus, right? They're probably not on Tumblr, at least not yet as much. But the Tumblr audience is our high potential consumer, right there, and there's a lot of cause discussion that happens on Tumblr across health as well as all types of topics. And it was our blog. So in the end, it was mostly because it was our blog and it was flexible. So like if we tried to create like a microsite on our own Walgreens.com site, our processes are such that it would have required probably like a 6-month lead time. And every time we wanted to put a new post on there, it would have required at least 2 weeks advance notice. So it's, like we have a lot of like internal constraints that make it challenging. But I think in the end, it was really, we also had these sponsored days. It was part of the media plan as well. We had these sponsored days on Tumblr, and that was probably the final, tipping point because we needed somewhere in Tumblr. It was a little bit more complex to link out somewhere else. At the time, they didn't have that capability. It had to stay within Tumblr for their sponsored days.
One more question from the back.
So you mentioned earlier that about 75% of the folks that were buying the vitamins were in like the 55 plus age category.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys think about that when a lot of the content that you were creating you were sharing on social media? And I think that maybe a lower percentage of 55 plus are on social media. So, what thought did you guys put into that when trying to figure out how you reach those, that 75%?
Right, no, that's a great question. So the idea with the high reach channels, so TV and radio, is that we're hitting that older demographic. When we buy radio media, we buy it in kind of two different ways. We buy it against 25 to 54, which is Gen Pop, and then we'll make special buys 55 plus to make sure that message is getting out there. In digital platforms, again, obviously the trend is that it's still kind of a younger, engaged audience. We make sure we align our high frequency customers 55 plus to sites that we know that they're visiting on a frequent basis. So more of those kind of contextual type buys. We buy a lot of our digital media now, probably almost 60, 70% of it programmatically. So being able to leverage our Balance Rewards data, we have your card, we have your purchase history, we have all those different things, your age, demographic. So making sure that we're hitting you when you're online and those relevant channels, so personalized, reaching you that way too. And then the hopes of just contents like emails that Erika mentioned, where they're still engaged in that. We still do a lot of parade and promo print type buys where the 55, 65 plus audience is engaged in as well. So we tailor our buys based on the demographic. So we skew a lot of our media and buy a lot of our media just depending on where we need to see sales lift.
Yeah, and Facebook was a big chunk of our media plan as well in terms of the social. I mean, I mentioned the sponsor day on Tumblr, but Facebook in terms of the kind of ongoing engagement was probably our key platform, and that does, it's getting older these days on Facebook. Here.
Oh, yep.
Right there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, I had a quick question as well, and it kind of goes off of his, but it sounds right now you've done an excellent job kind of catapulting this platform and this campaign. So your target audience, your high potential audience, I had seen was like that kind of millennial, but also going into X generation and females. And so I'm just curious, have you thought about kind of switching the lens on your content to maybe, I know Vitamin Angels is looking at a pediatric population, but maybe looking at a newborn and a mother that's breastfeeding and giving those nourishments to her child. And maybe that would kind of position you up for success with that millennial female population that's looking for vitamins for pregnancy or post-pregnancy for that.
That's a great observation and a great question. This year's campaign, this will launch in November-ish time period, probably a little bit later because we're doing something different around just thank you in general, is that we are kind of segmenting, right? So Vitamin Angels does a lot of work with prenatals. A lot of what you mentioned, secondary kind of demographic or high potential demographic is that mother. How do we start to leverage the prenatal aspect of Walgreens vitamins proposition and the prenatal aspect of Vitamin Angels and start to talk to them on an individual level? It's extremely relevant to them. How do we talk to like energy supplements and things like that to a younger demographic that's more 22 to 25 about that and the different energy benefits that vitamins have for kids around the world? So our approach is just going deeper into content and taking kind of that vitamin A blindness thing, but then really starting to say prenatal, pregnant mother, energy, 22-year-old, and then energy that children get, and just kind of starting to pick apart multivitamins for 55 plus, and then this is how multivitamins help children. Trying to dimensionalize it in that way. A lot of our media buying is starting to skew a little bit lower too, except for in channels to the back of that point where we know we need to hit on our core customer target to make sure that they continue to shop us and drive awareness. So we're trying to think about it in different ways of just dimensionalizing the content that we put in front of that person in a unique way. Just based on all the data that we have now, with Bounce Rewards and just in the marketplace in general you can purchase, is getting really deep into making it super relevant and personal to that customer based on whatever Vitamin Angels proposition is relevant to them. 3 minutes? Okay, great. So high level some results. The screen's been up here for a little bit, but I talked a little bit about this throughout, is that we did drive sales all last year. Our growth target was roughly, this says 5%. That was a number I was supposed to share. It was actually lower than that at 4.2. We grew year-over-year sales by 5.1. In that campaign period, actually, though, we saw a double-digit increase in sales. So when media was at its heaviest and when we were reaching the most people. From a reach perspective, I won't get to some of the detailed media stats, but I mentioned that 95% stat, TV hitting those folks about 7 to 8 times. In campaign's totality, 22 folks approximately that we reached. And then from an NCS sales standpoint, where we saw the biggest growth from our data and external data was that we got our customers who were in the doors to shop us more. But again, market share, you need to bring in net new customers. We did see a 6% increase left in net new vitamin buyers. And then kind of some stats I won't share out of how you can analyze where they're coming from, and some lists that we saw some from direct competitors of bringing them out of their doors and into our doors a little bit more frequently. And then from like a brand tracker perspective, again, I said enterprise was down. We had to look at this at a halo level. When you think of cause, you have to measure brand sentiment and how that's happening. So again, brand to breakthrough work. We saw great brand increases in terms of overall shopping intent outside of just category intent. And we have started to see the frequency pick up kind of chain-wide. So that was exciting to see that the program drove that as well.
Yeah, and I'll quickly, so, over-delivered impressions, video views, engagement were at or above benchmarks, what we expected for the program. Overwhelmingly positive sentiment. The few negative remarks we would get like in comments and social would be like, why aren't you doing this in the US? Or, what about the US people? So that was, we expected that. It's nothing new. We did, I think, see an increase in engagements over prior year with the new content that we released. And then there's some other, smaller kind of comments, but Facebook was our most efficient platform from a cost perspective. I think that's about all. That was our top post, by the way, that Mushabala one, yeah. And just, key learnings, I think, on the content side were, on the planning side, making sure that we're aligning with the media plan, making sure that we're being thoughtful about how we use technology, that we have a plan in place for how we are going to leverage virtual reality technology, making sure that everybody knows what their role is, both in the field as well as when we're back and reviewing all the content. And then on the execution side, making sure we have enough time for production. We were really time crunched because it was sort of right after the holiday, and there was 2 months to get everything ready for launch. Too much content, or Riot was awesome. They wanted to film everything. They would jump off onto motorcycles and start filming things as they were happening, but it meant that our agency, GSG&M, had to sort through all of that footage and make sure that they had the right footage for the videos. And just thinking about how you roll out content, we'd like to think that people would come back and engage week after week, but in reality, that's kind of not really how people are consuming content. So. Thanks.